So I'm just going to kind of make my way through some of these questions here, and I'll pose them to you, and maybe starting with Professor Tiemeier, since you went first. I see that Professor Rajamani is, Dr. Rajamani is one of our graduate students, is thanking you for your um, presentation. I won't read the whole recap of the story that you told, but the question that I see here that I think is a good one is, how can we disseminate her wisdom and logic to the world? So if Nila Kechi was this migrant who was traveling in so many different forms and was so well learned, and also I noticed carrying a baby like many migrants are, how do we disseminate what you just said to the world?
Yeah, and many thanks to Dr. Rajamani for giving kind of a summary of the different debates, which I didn't have time for. So that's nice. You can see kind of her kind of the main kind of issues that she's debating against. I mean, I have been working on her and the epic for about a year, about a year and a half. And what I would say is I've presented this her story with a variety of topics comparatively to Gonzaga University in Spokane, St. Mary's College in South Bend, here at LMU. And her story and her many stories are so compelling to young people. Um, she's messy. And there's an ambiguity to her story, and there are many different stories about her. And she not only becomes a dedicated Pei in Jain tradition, but also there are Buddhist folklore stories about her as well. And so I think we just need to keep talking about her because narratives speak to people. And her narrative has been extremely compelling to everybody that I've presented on about this. And even if we might disagree on particular policy points, and really I'm not talking about policy, I'm talking about our moral imagination of how we think about the other. And trying to highlight that the other that we encounter doesn't need to believe the way we believe or look the way we look or even be perfect. I think we try to put demands onto the other that we don't even adhere to ourselves. And so to give space for, the messiness, I think is really, really important and something that we need in our society. But fundamentally, I think her move from violence to nonviolence, from, meat eater to vegetarian, her commitment to forceful argumentation while maintaining her own ethical principles, and being forceful. I mean, she's very impertinent. When the Vedic scholar accuses her of being low caste, like, what do you know? You're low caste, and she is not afraid. She just responds out of truth. I think we need that in our public discourse. People are defaulting to intolerance and hatred and verbal violence in a way that is truly uh, terrifying to me. Um, so I just think we need to keep talking about her.
Keep telling the stories, right? Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
stories we tell. And yeah, I was really touched by that. And this is a really new sort of story for me and hearing the translation. I was very touched that she's also a woman. She's a
Mhm.
mother. She's a migrant. So many things in the way that you compared that to the Christian apostles wandering and whatnot as well. So there's also some cultural bridges here between the traditions that I thought you built quite well. There's a question from Jessica to Dr. Tiemeier. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's a little bit long, but I think I'm going to capture what the essence of the question is. It says, Dr. Tiemeier, I greatly appreciate your critique of theology of sameness and skillful use of Anikantavada to help us see differences as enriching, as life-affirming and life-giving, and not to mention the figure of Nilikeshi to go beyond the national boundaries and oppositional hierarchies. And I'll kind of come to the question. What meaningful political communities could emerge if we adopt such profound and constitutive ambiguity? I'm really sick and tired of nation states. Do you see any real possibility of an anarchist future, or at least, um, I was going to read insomnia, but I think it's isomnia in the Greek term. I don't want to use democracy because I don't want to tie political communities with a state as the controller. So I don't know if there's a political implication here to what you're saying, Dr. Tiemeier, if you wanted to comment on that.
It's a great question. Um, I mean, there's something in her village practices. There is something kind of anarchic about her practice. She's particularly her devotees are. She particularly protects women, children, and trees. And people who come to her are people who are on the margins, who are desperate, who want a child, or who are facing desperate circumstances. So and at the same time, we're not talking about even at her practices within South Indian temples. Um, it's not totally anarchic, but there's a kind of plurality of practice, views, and communities, plural. So I do think there's hope for small communities like that. I'm less, I mean, I love the reference to Edouard Glissant, I think is wonderful. I love the womb abyss and the idea of thinking about the middle passage as this space of the between. And I do think we need to start thinking as people committed to non-harm and to justice about being people of the between who are willing to be in these spaces and commit to empathy, you know, a language that does not replicate violence, and standing up to the state when we need to. Um, but I'm not a political philosopher, so I can't say for sure if there's hope for of like an anarchic future. I will say that I very much appreciate the U.S. bishops insisting that states have a right to protect their borders. I'm not arguing for us to get rid of borders. Borders are a wonderful thing. Our skins are borders. Like, you know, comparison needs borders. You know, borders and boundaries are a positive thing when they're flexible, when they're not absolute. And so, what that means, you know, concretely in terms of a political state, I don't know, but it's a great question.
Yeah, that's a really thoughtful answer. Thank you, Dr. Tiemeier. The flexibility of borders, important way of thinking about that.